Welcome to the Political Orphans. My name is Nico Lagan. Tonight, we speak about a topic that most Canadians do not want to acknowledge and would rather sweep under the rug. A topic that got me banned in the past from social media: vaccine injuries. I am joined by vaccine injured and co founder of Can Rise 19, Michelle Worton. Michelle, welcome.
Thank you, Nico.
Yeah, thanks for being here. It's interesting. We were just talking about this before we started recording when you and I had a conversation. It was either last year or the year before.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
both kind of forgot about it. And then Ted Kuntz, the president of Vaccine Choice Canada, I reached out to him. I'm like, hey, I need somebody to talk about vaccine injury and the new rebranding that's going on with the VISP program. He's like, Michelle Worton is the person you need to talk to. So here we are. Thank you for being here. We're going to jump right in because your story is, as you said, a lengthy one. Mm-hmm. So let's start from the beginning. Let's start back in December 2021. You reported neurological and autoimmune symptoms such as dysautonomia, a nervous system disorder that disrupt autonomic body processes such as blood pressure and heart rate right after you received a COVID-19 shot. Can you explain to us what happened exactly?
Yeah, absolutely. So up until December 16th, 2021, I was a regulated healthcare professional, incredibly healthy, fit, backcountry skier, like avalanche pack, hiking, you name it. I worked in dentistry for over 20 years, and I actually had my own dental hygiene practice. And so I was the first dental hygienist in Northern British Columbia to establish an independent dental hygiene practice. Sadly, I had to sell that practice in order to pay for international healthcare because I was unable to get care in Canada. And still, even to this day, I'm in and out of trying to fight for medical care. Nonetheless, I throughout 2020, navigating the pandemic, my practice had to close. We reopened, and then we roll into late 2021. And of course, you know as well as I do what those mandates look like in Canada. And so I served a few different roles. Not only was I a business owner, I was also a practicing clinician, and then I also served on my regulatory body. So I was on the board of directors. So the very end of 2021 was quite difficult for me. I was privy to lots of information behind the scenes, and a lot of it I can't talk about. It was in camera. But the short story is that I was not on board with these injections. So it was a matter of both coercion, exploitation, and it was difficult. It wasn't a choice. It was coercion. And in order to maintain practicing and credibility within my community, I had quite a bit of exploitation even from some of my patients, asking for my vaccine status prior to confirming their dental appointments. I live in a relatively small community, so let's just say that was quite challenging. And November was my first injection. I received an email, confidential mandatory vaccines required from our college as a board of directors member. And that was the beginning for me. So first injection was mid-November. Immediately within an hour, those symptoms you just said. So erratic heart rate, blood pressure, shortness of breath, tightness in my chest, generally didn't feel well. Kind of chalked it up to anxiousness, and it resolved somewhat. And then my second injection was December 16th, and that forever changed the course of my life. So within 48 hours, severe neurological issues, so blurred vision, tunnel vision, double vision, hot spots in my legs, tinnitus, so ringing in my ears. I lost control of my bladder, so I had incontinence issues. And then it started a whole cascade, which still today is continuing. Today I'm diagnosed, and it took about 3 years to finally be diagnosed. And that was mostly in the US. Canada is very difficult to get any acknowledgement. So I was diagnosed with a couple autoimmune conditions, small fiber neuropathy. So my nerves are dying or are dead in 3/4 of all my limbs. So I have extreme sensory loss in my hands and feet, vision issues, mast cell activation syndrome, POTS, which is a version of dysautonomia, acquired tissue disorder. So I have a very difficult time staying upright. Essentially, I had a severe adverse reaction to the Pfizer, both doses. My immune system has never calmed down. As a result, it is attacking my tissue, my nerves, my brain, you name it. And here I am today. So I have substantial vision loss. I'm in an extraordinary amount of pain every minute of every day. I have brain lesions that are ongoing. I have signs of a stroke that was unreported, which is a whole nother layer of discussion about the quality of healthcare in Canada. And ultimately, I developed a brain cyst, which was causing brain compression, and that resulted in brain surgery in the US in 2023. So I also had to have brain surgery. And this was a woman that was 42 years old, thriving at the top of her game, active with my family, my children, my spouse. And now I am primarily homebound. So that's my life. I do weekly injections now. Autoimmune treatment. So it's called SCIG. So I have to do immune therapy at home every Tuesday. And so I feel like shit today. And that's usually what will happen for the next 2 days. But our hope is that we can provide me with an immune system, because I don't have one, and one that hopefully won't continue to deteriorate my nerves and the tissue in my body. Yeah. And there is minimal help in Canada when you are vaccine injured. Yeah.
Well, this is the part that I really wanted to address with you, because you posted an article yesterday on your Facebook account that speaks about the new rebranding from the Vaccine Injury Support Program to the Vaccine Impact Assistance Program. And we're going to speak about the rebranding, because this is definitely something I want to get into with you. But before we address this, in that article you posted, there was a mention, and I'm quoting the article here: the Vaccine Impact Assistance Program will provide support to people in Canada who have been assessed to have serious and permanent injuries as a result of taking a Health Canada authorized vaccine. The important word in there is assessed. So that implies that somebody agreed. There's a doctor out there that said, yes, you are suffering from vaccine injury. But we both know, because your story is not unique. Unfortunately, this is a recurring. It's recurring. It's something I hear all the time. You had to go to the US in order to get a diagnosis, because in Canada, the doctors will not say that a vaccine injury is even a possibility. It seems they will do anything possible to not go there. So how is it possible to be treated or compensated by the Vaccine Impact Assistance Program if they say in their own definition that the patient needs to be assessed and doctors will not make that assessment?
Yeah, that's a real caveat right there. You're absolutely right. So today, for myself, I have roughly 25 rejection letters from specialists in British Columbia that absolutely refused to see me as soon as they saw the reason that I was injured. And the very first doctor I saw locally blamed it on menopause, Nico. Menopause. So I went in with everything I just said, and menopause was what he said, like that was my issue. And I couldn't even believe it. And so you're absolutely right. I had to consult with a US neurosurgeon to have my brain surgery done. The biopsy, thankfully, it wasn't cancerous and it wasn't a tumor. But that led me down the rabbit hole of like mast cell investigation. I again leaned on Canada, tried to see an immunologist. Not a chance anyone would see me. Again, I found an immunologist and neuromuscular specialist in the US. And so this was I was injured December 16, 2021. I had surgery November 2023 in the US, brain surgery. I went back to the United States in August of 24 And finally in 24, I finally had no questions asked, absolutely acknowledged. Like, yes, Michelle, this is from the COVID vaccine. These are all the conditions you have. In 36 hours, like, I had comprehensive blood work and there was like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I came back with like a very clear letter indicating as such. And yet still I had so much resistance when I finally got my foot in the door. And it took those letters from Canada or from the US to be able to get my foot in the door with like Canadian specialists. But so I have confirmed vaccine injury. I have the documentation, and I was rejected by VISP. I'm in the appeals process. Like you couldn't, and there's my story is not, I'm not like unique. Like you said, like there's many Canadians that have confirmation of vaccine injury and their claims are still denied. And you're right. Like, so the very foundation of the VISP program prior to it being called VIAP, and the name itself is like, they've already abandoned us and now they want to erase us is what's happening. And so between like changing the name to, we'll talk here shortly about like the sealing of records and what that looks like they want to erase us and like we aren't going away. And the nature of like Canadians being able to access care, they can't get assessed because doctors are penalized. They're robbed of their licenses if they speak out. I still can't find a doctor to sign to report my injury, like my adverse event following immunization. And when you're going through all of this, I was fighting for my life, like, and I still am. Like, I have no idea. Like, I'm waiting to go for surgery now for my gallbladder. That's messed up. I have to get that taken out. I have another brain cyst. I'm waiting to figure out what's happening with that. So to find doctors that will actually validate and acknowledge these conditions without ramifications for their licensing, like the majority of Canadians couldn't even qualify for VISP because they couldn't get a doctor within the three-year time frame. Like, so you're right, you can't get assessed, so you can't get compensation. And this isn't about money. Like, people have to realize this. Like, compensation is like, I deserve the quality of life I had before. And every Canadian does. Like, anyone that's been injured by these injections deserves to have the life or at least the support they had beforehand. Like, I may never work again. I didn't sign up for this, right? Like, I did not sign up for this. So with VISP, it was 3 years. We just had a session on the 30th with the Public Health Agency of Canada for VIAP, which you just said what they renamed, and they have these extraordinary circumstances, they're calling it. So like, basically you had to be on your deathbed and like incapacitated to explain an extenuating circumstance. What I'm trying to discuss and recommend with the Public Health Agency of Canada is, with these extenuating circumstances, can you include the fact that there are systemic issues in our healthcare system? For example, these barriers of individuals being able to access medical care or doctors being able to help us. Like, the system is nefarious. It's failed. I am not a rose-colored glasses person. I do want to be optimistic that we will see some good and action come out of this program being handed over to the Public Health Agency. I don't suspect that's going to be the case. Over the last 2 weeks, so this was just March 30th, we had the information session. April 1st, they took over. And so we've had multiple vaccine injured that have cases or cases that were denied. Some are in the appeals process. And so many have we've been waiting for years to hear. I've been in the appeals process for 18 months now. And the most difficult part was 2 of the 3 quote unquote medical panel experts they had agreed there was a temporal relationship between my injections and my injury and my symptoms. They did not feel like my conditions were from the vaccine. So there's feelings in this now, apparently. But what we've realized now with a few injured that have recorded calls with Public Health Agency of Canada and their representatives is that they keep talking about, this is like the new program and their reps, they keep talking about the new program having real doctors this time. Real doctors. What did we have last time? We didn't have real doctors last time. And I asked this, like, my case manager, I think I'm on case manager 7 now with this new program. But my case manager, he was great. He encouraged me to apply for an appeal. He was just like, I'm so sorry. Like, I think he thought my case was going to be a slam dunk. And I said to him, how are you vetting these medical professionals? Like, how are my 3 that you say you have are saying, yes, this is what this is, and your 3 are saying no? And so, like I said, there's a few recorded calls where the new program reps are saying that they're using real doctors. I just learned yesterday from a vaccine injured that they called. The doctors that they are using to make these decisions are employees of the Public Health Agency of Canada. How's that unbiased? Like, it's an atrocity. It's an atrocity. Whatever reason you decided to choose to get vaccinated, I'll take choice out. Whatever reason you receive these injections, that's up to you. I'm not here to argue that. I didn't want to. Here I am today, right? Some people believed in the system. The very foundation of the integrity of vaccines and safety profiles in Canada, I've lost all faith in that and all respect and integrity. But the fact of the matter is, if anyone did receive these and they were injured, the Canadian government promised to support us. They did not do that. And we shall see what the next, who knows how long we're going to be waiting for. We don't know.
One of the things I believe doctors should be required to do is to wear a shirt just like NASCAR drivers do, to show all the money that they receive. What are the logos of the companies you actually work for? Because clearly they don't work for Canadians and they're being bought somewhere. They're either being bought by our government or they're being bought by Big Pharma directly, which I think we know the answer to that one. But considering what you do and the foundation or the nonprofit that you're a co-founder of, do you have any idea of the percentage of people that were rejected?
Oh, yes. Okay. So I can tell you, give you statistics for our organization and our members. I mean, we're talking like 3% of people were approved with VISP. Like, it's like
97% of people were rejected.
Yes. Yeah. It's like a 95 to 97% rejection rate. Yeah. And I'll let you know specifically for us. Just bear with me for a second. So of our community members, so we had roughly 46% didn't apply because of barriers. So they couldn't either find a doctor to help them file a claim or they were too sick to do it. 24% were ineligible due to missed deadlines or lack of medical support. 29% didn't even know about the program. Of the applicants that there was 6.7% were approved, 43% were rejected, 50% remain in the process still. So the VIAP program told us that there's just over 2,000 claims that were transferred from VISP to VIAP, but it's a 95 to 97% rejection rate. Yeah.
Just 2,000 cases. That makes no sense. Considering that 80 to 90% of Canadians got at least one shot. That's the numbers that I keep on seeing. Yeah. That they only have 2,000 cases. Yeah, sure, cool story, bro. Not happening.
And this is the thing too. Like, when you think about vaccine reporting, like, it's roughly 1% of vaccine injuries are reported. So in our reporting system, it's difficult, right? Like me, for example, I still can't find a doctor. You can self-report. It's challenging, but there is that option. But to find a physician to report, that's difficult. And so we have these reported, like the data that, like, Health Canada is like issuing, but we know that there's a large amount of the population that, firstly, they don't realize that they're injured. So it's not a matter of if, it's when you figure it out. And then we're looking at the burden on our healthcare system. Don't think for a second it's not related, right? Like, we've got like this huge spike in chronic illness, and we're seeing cancers we've never seen before, autoimmune conditions we've never seen before, neurological conditions we've never seen before. And this is what's challenging. Like, so did you watch An Inconvenient Study? Did you watch that documentary?
Inconvenience study. I do not believe so. I'm terrible with names. I'd have to see it, but
Yeah,
I've watched a lot of them. But it doesn't. It sounds familiar, so I either watched it or I'm supposed to watch it.
So it's a production by Del Bigtree, and it follows the MMR vaccines in the U.S. And it just goes through like data that was collected, but that it wasn't disclosed to the public. And so they backtracked in the interview, and they discussed with like one of the physicians that was talking about vaccine reporting. So in a clinical trial, say for example. And so what their discussion was is that in a clinical trial, if you don't have reported injuries in a clinical trial, they didn't exist, right? So if you remove someone from a clinical trial because they had an injury and they never got their second dose, say for the Pfizer, whatever the case may be, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, you name it, Moderna. And I'm telling you this because I know this is reality, because I know people that were in the clinical trials for the COVID vaccines. So this documentary is not about that, but it was curious to me that, like I said, these doctors didn't feel like my conditions were from the vaccine. But if they're not reported in the clinical trial, then they're not causality. And so you can have all the temporal relationship, timeline relationship associated with injection and onset of symptoms, but like Guillain-Barré's is noted, transverse myelitis is noted, Bell's palsy is in there. Like there's some very specific neurological conditions. Now we see myocarditis, myopericarditis, like there's all these things that are coming out, right? But like small fiber neuropathy wasn't in there. I mean, there's these other autoimmune conditions that weren't reported. And I know numerous individuals that were in the AstraZeneca and Pfizer clinical trials, and they were removed from the clinical trial because they had injuries and their data is gone and they have the same conditions that I have. So trying to like you start to understand behind the scenes, and once you start to unfold, like unpackage this information, it's challenging to like see it in such plain sight, and until you really are in a position like I am or like you are, you just don't quite understand the depth of like the deception that's behind the scenes. And I think that's one of the hardest things for me throughout all of this is like what I've had to unlearn. I was immersed in healthcare for over 2 decades, right? Like I believed in vaccines. I believed in, like, I believe in public safety. Like, I mean, all of this, I took all of this very seriously. And it adds insult to injury when anyone would ever call me an anti-vaxxer because I'm injured because I was vaccinated. Like it's absolutely insulting. Like we don't come to this place by choice, right? Like we come to it through a very, very difficult experience. And I met Ted, like you said, he's president of Vaccine Choice Canada. And I listened to him speak last summer, the summer before. And he talked about his son's story. And for anyone that doesn't know Ted's story, his son was vaccine injured as an infant and suffered from a seizure disorder his entirety of his life. And that's where Vaccine Choice Canada started. And it's 44 years now. And his discussion was, we can talk about all the data points. They're important. We need that. It's very scientific. Well, I base it on science for myself. But until you hear someone's lived experience, it's relatable. And that's where you can reach people, right? Because we need people to know what can happen to you. It's awful. It's awful.
I couldn't agree more. That's why I do a show with Vaccine Choice Canada called Safe and Effective ? And I interview people like you. I interview some of the best doctors on the planet that had the balls to speak about this. We had Aaron Siri on the show. That was awesome. And
he's fantastic. He's fantastic. Like he is just pioneering like vaccine safety in the US. And I wish that we could find someone that would like take charge here in Canada. Aaron's fantastic.
I got him the day after, and that was total coincidence. Well, although I don't believe in coincidences, but it was not planned. Mm-hmm. I got him the day after RFK released the new vaccine schedule for the children in the US. And Aaron Siri was part of the team that worked on it. Just happened that I had him on the show the day after. And about a month after that, he was on Joe Rogan. Just saying. I'm a gatekeeper to Joe Rogan's podcast. I'm just saying. One of the and I can't talk about what we said offline, but he is so much cooler than he looks. Than no, I don't want to say portray because he's not portraying anything, but he's a lawyer, right? He wears the suit. He has to have a certain look and a certain way of speaking. But we got to speak, just him and I, after.
Mm-hmm.
I like him so much more because of the small conversation that we had after. He made it so personal. It was just absolutely great, because my son's 9 months old. He's unvaccinated. Both my wife and I are the only people in both our families that are not vaccinated. My son has had no shots, zero, and he will not get anything done to him. You will not put anything in my son. Nothing.
Yeah. We didn't get any of the COVID injections for our children. And so my son's 15 now and 12. My daughter's 12. In hindsight, I would have made different decisions earlier in their life. But my daughter did not get the vitamin K injection when she was born. I actually didn't even know. I didn't even know that was like a thing. I forget how I ended up realizing it. And I was like, why on earth are they doing that? And so I had specifically said to the nurses when she was born, I don't want her getting that. It's unnecessary. And like, it's very interesting. Like, there's just things you can't challenge. And this is one of them, right? Like, it's like, Aaron Siri put it best, that it's like vaccine religion, vaccines, amen, right? Like, heaven forbid that you, and I'm a woman of faith. So I do believe there's a difference between faith and religion. So let's just, I'm absolutely a woman of faith.
We both agree.
Yeah, it's the only reason I'm on this earth is because of God's grace. That's absolutely it. Like, I've seen my life flash before my eyes. But she didn't receive that vitamin K injection. And neither of them had the COVID injections. And then it was roughly like, my son was coming into grade 6, so it was Hep B. I said no, got all kinds of emails and stuff sent home. And my son went to school, and I think he might have been one of the only kids that didn't. And one of his peers asked him, realizing he's 11, almost 12. And they're like, well, why aren't you doing that? And he said, well, my family looks at the risk versus benefit, and we feel like the risk isn't worth it. And that was his answer, because you know what? We've had to have these conversations.
Smart kid.
We've had to have conversations. Like, you can't hide what I've gone through. They've witnessed everything, like seeing their mother, like, incredibly strong and like and then like deteriorating before their eyes. And then now, and it was the same for my daughter too, with like Hep B. And then this year it was HPV for my son. And I, again, received the paperwork at home, signed no. As I'm looking through it, I see this mature minor section. I was just like, what? Like, I'm saying no, and he can say yes. And so I was like, no. We've had lots of conversations with the kids about this stuff. And so we said to them, if there's any pressure, you absolutely leave the school. You have our permission, no questions asked. I emailed the school. I got the, there's a disclosure statement you can actually get from Northern Health, and it is specifically about vaccines and like refusal. And so I filled that out and sent that back to the school. But as a parent, you have to be paying attention, because I actually had no idea about the mature minor clause. Yeah. And so we didn't even receive full informed consent, like as adults. So when you sit a child down and you say you could get Guillain-Barré's, they have no idea what that means. But if you say you could be paralyzed for the rest of your life, that would ring a lot differently for a 14-year-old boy, right? But they're not going to use that language. And Ted said it best. No one has ever received true informed consent, because double blindsided placebo, like, they've never been done. So like, no. any testing for vaccines has never been the gold standard in the history of like vaccinations. And when I just came across this new paper, or part of the section that was disclosed with the Pfizer contract between the government of Canada, I sent that to you, and talking about that, like their acknowledgement that there could be safety issues. Nobody received informed consent, because I'm telling you right now, if somebody I mean, I knew it wasn't, I didn't want to do it in the first place. Let's be very clear. But can you tell me how many Canadians would have rolled up their sleeve if the person that was inoculating them included that as part of the informed consent? Oh, by the way, the government of Canada has said, oh, we're aware that they don't know if these are safe, but we're going to use them anyways. Right.
Well, you're kind of throwing me exactly where I wanted to be for the next question, and I got the document right here that you sent me, and this is a publicly available piece of information. You guys are able to find it. If you want it, just let me know. I will send it over. But basically, it stipulates it is a document called Manufacturing and Supply Agreement between Pfizer Canada ULC and Her Majesty the Queen Right of Canada, requested by the Minister of Public Works and Government Service Canada, dated as of October 26, 2020. It states that purchaser further acknowledges that the long-term effects and efficacy of the vaccine are not currently known, and that there may be adverse effects of the vaccine that are not currently known. Further, to the extent applicable, purchaser acknowledges that the product shall not be serialized. You please explain what that means, but to a guy like me that reads a lot of bills, that reads a lot of legal documents, but that is still not a lawyer, just somebody that does a lot of research, and sounds to me that the government knew about the potential problems, yet chose to push it on the Canadian population through coercion.
You're absolutely right. And I verified, so this, I'd seen this document, and I verified with a vaccine injured Canadian, and that documentation is actually part of the lawsuit that's ensuing right now. So it is, yeah. So
You're talking about the Sean Hartman.
No, Carrie Sakamoto. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Carrie Sakamoto, she's in Alberta. She has the only potential class action in Canada. And so all of the documentation that's part of her lawsuit is on, I think it's Rath and Company is the legal counsel that she has. And so you can go on their website and find all of the documentation that's part of it. And this documentation is part of it. So I always want to make sure that what I'm saying is accurate. So, but I mean, what does that say? Right? Like when I read that documentation, like, I mean, me knowing, and this is the other thing too, is up until I went for surgery in 2023, my life was unraveling. And like, there was a period of time that I physically couldn't walk, Nico. Like I absolutely couldn't walk. And I was in the dark. No one could touch me. I couldn't hear sound. I couldn't handle light. I was in sunglasses in my house in the dark, debilitating pain. Like I had brain compression, and I finally went for surgery. And when I came home, again, I had to go back to the States, like I said, back to Utah. Firstly, because I was on the college board, I ended up resigning by March of 2022 because I was just like, I'm not being any part of this. Like, there's no way I'm going to be responsible for anybody being mandated to be like vaccinated and be injured like I was, because like it was immediate for me. And I was very clear when I resigned why I was resigning. And this was like such a sting. The email that we had received included a quote from Bonnie Henry. And I was called a public health hazard by not being vaccinated. Can you imagine? Like 20 plus years serving the public and the community and taking it seriously and being a regulated healthcare professional. And that's what I was called. And I was like, what? And this is the funny thing. I had never had COVID until 8 months after I was vaccinated. So if we want to talk about efficacy, like clearly, and this was the part that really was concerning to me at the end of 2021, was just like, this isn't effective. Like people are vaccinated and they're still getting COVID and they're still transmitting it. And that's what I had said actually at the board level. Would you not rather have an unvaccinated practitioner who knows they're symptomatic and not go to work than have someone that's vaccinated and asymptomatic and transmitting it? We didn't even understand the safety profile at that time. But so my business was in transition to sell. So I was in a very difficult position of like And I really wanted to make sure that it was definitely that I was vaccine injured, because I didn't want to be. If it was, this sounds silly, but like if it was MS, I would know it was MS, right? Like if it was like, and there's a clear pathway, but to recovery, there's no cure for me. We have no known cure for anyone that's suffering with conditions that I have. We don't know, because we don't understand it. And in Canada, we can't find doctors that are able to research us, which we're more than willing. Like our entire community at CanRise 19 is willing to contribute to research. Most of the doctors that are investing in research have gone to the States because they can practice their expertise without being penalized. So it wasn't until the fall of 2024 that I realized I wasn't alone, Nico. I went to the States and needed a VPN to be able to I needed a US IP address to fill out my paperwork. As soon as I put a VPN with a Utah IP address, just like the floodgates opened on my social media, the floodgates opened on access to peer-reviewed papers. I had no idea. So in March of 2021, the US government and Canada, they knew what was happening behind the scenes with the clinical trial injuries, and they still pushed their agenda. They still pushed it. And so here we are now, 2026, and now we've got records that are sealed for 15 years for an incredibly large FOIA request. Looks like they have like COVID era records for 5 years. The 15 year, that caveat, I think I mentioned that to you. I talked to you about it. And so I've been able to receive FOIA requests. So my first FOIA request was in November. And so that was me on behalf of CanRise 19. And so part of CanRise 19, when you...
Before you get there though, let me give a chance to the audience to actually ask you questions, because I know they're going to go there. So there's a few questions on purpose I did not want to ask, so that we have the opportunity to hear from the audience. And this is your time. If you're listening to this, if you want to know more about Michelle's story, please ask the question. The remaining of the show is going to be about taking your questions, your comments, and letting Michelle address them. So if you have questions for Michelle, please drop it in the comment section. I will ask her. And I would also like to know, because of the type of work that you do with CanRise 19, if you, the listeners, have family members or friends that were injured by the vaccine. Maybe you were injured by the vaccine. So let us know. Let us know in the comment section, and Michelle can explain what they do, and maybe they're able to help you. I'm just saying. I'm just kind of connecting the people in the audience and Michelle's organization, CanRise 19. But before we do get to those questions, I want to speak about the crowdfunding that is going on right now. This show is all about your participation, your questions, your comments, and I decided that it was time for us to take it to the next level. I want you guys on the show, because comments are great and they will always be a cornerstone of this show, but nothing beats a conversation, just like the one that Michelle and I is having right now. So what I want is to set up what I call the Orphans hotline, just like they do on AM talk radio. I want to give you guys the opportunity to call in with nothing more than a cell phone, no cameras, no microphones, just your phone. But in order to do that, I need to buy a piece of equipment that's called the Rodecaster Pro 2. And it turns out it's on sale right now until the end of the month. It normally goes for about $1,000. Right now it's on sale for $820 plus tax. I can't do it alone. I need you guys' help. We currently have $250 out of the $950 that it will cost with the taxes. Thanks to Don Vant, Wilf, Wildflowers that are always in the comment section. So we need another $700 to make it happen. I really want to have this orphan hotline. I want to be able to take your voice, to have it on the show. I want to give you guys the opportunity to shape the show, not just listen. So if you're interested to be part of this, go to thepoliticalorphans.com/hotline and make a donation. Make the orphan hotline a reality. That being said, I want to hear from you guys. So the questions I asked, do you have a question for Michelle about her past, about her story? Or do you know somebody that's been injured that could potentially help, that could potentially require help, or at least information where CanRise 19 can help? On that note, let's check some of the message, some of the comments that we got. And by the way, the book you were talking about, Hale Gordon on Instagram said it. It's Vaccine Amen by
Yes.
Aaron Siri. So thank you, Hale. One of the things that I kept on thinking every time I hear vaccine injury, considering where we're going right now in Canada, like back in the corner saying how many chose MAID instead of suffering from the COVID vaccine. And it's interesting, right? This almost sounds sarcastic, but it's not. It's a reality. Now we see MAID being offered left, right, and center. You use the term mature minor, which is absolutely ludicrous. There's no such thing as a mature minor. That's why they're minors. You're either mature or you're minor. You can't be both at the same time. It's an oxymoron. It cannot happen. But what do you think about this comment that how many people do you think were vaccine injured that had no idea that they were vaccine injured? Because obviously the doctors are not going to tell them that. They are potentially looking at MAID. Like imagine if you did not know what was going on, you didn't push the extra step because probably of the background that you had in health.
Yeah.
That would have been a potentially solution for you.
Well, I can tell you, I can't tell you statistics, but what I can tell you is you're absolutely right. By the end of 2023, with the level of ignorance and dismissiveness that I had prior to going to the US, I have a living will, and it doesn't include being incapacitated in my life. And so we had to have these conversations like, what are the next steps? My memory was going, my sight was going, like I'd lost sight completely in my right eye before I went for surgery, word finding difficulties, couldn't walk, extraordinary pain. Like I didn't sign up to live like this. Not only that, I actually was I mean, there was too many times to count that I was hospitalized in the ER, and I was hospitalized and I was in Alberta, and it was a neurologist that came in, and we knew I had a brain cyst. They knew I was vaccine injured. My mom was there with me, and she asked my mom to leave the room. And I wish now no one was thinking. I just wish that I hadn't. But she came up to me and she put her hand on my leg and she said, "Michelle, this must be really hard for you. This must be very difficult to deal with, especially when there's no solutions." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And I was just like, "What?" And I'm like in so much pain, and like, this is her approach. And I know multiple vaccine injured that have been offered MAID. Through CanRise 19, we offer emotional support. We have formal support groups, so people can find us on our website, canrise19.com. And we run the support groups quarterly. We have an underground medical provider list, so we don't share that publicly because we want to protect the providers that are willing to help Canadians. And then we're also working on a medical care fund. So we do have a donate now button on our website, and we're trying to get charitable status in Canada so that people can get tax receipts. But what I can tell you through the organization, until it's myself and my co-founder, Julie Woods, she's extraordinary. I have conversations with people on a regular basis that are deciding if they're going to choose MAID. They're giving themselves months. They've applied and they're waiting. And you know why? Because that's the medical care they're offered in Canada. I can't give you statistics, but I can tell you it's a reality. So if there's anyone in Canada that thinks this is a farce, I've had the conversations with people. We have vaccine injured that have publicly shared that they've been offered MAID 3 times. They're not offered healthcare. Like the treatment that I shared with you, I'm on SCIG. It's $10,000 a month, Nico. I had to fight for 2 years to get it in Canada. And I finally just got access to SCIG in February of this year. And I've needed it for 2 years. And the British Columbia government knew that I would get worse. And the doctors in the state said this: if you don't give this to her, she will get worse. And the nerve damage progressed from my hands and feet to my shoulders and my thighs in 9 months. And here I am today. But you know why? Because it's $10,000 a month. My brother compared it best for me. This is when I had the brain surgery. He said, it's the difference between a lease and a purchase, Michelle. They'd rather lease your life than purchase, right? And so MAID is inexpensive in the grand scheme of things than paying $120,000 for me for a year, right? I'm approved for this treatment, and it's taken almost like it's taken everything in me, every fight in me to get access to this treatment because they gatekeep it, but it's expensive. They'd rather offer people MAID.
Not only that, but one of the behind the scene secondary market for MAID is harvesting organs, and nobody can deny this because now we see organs from Canadians ending up in the US. Like, I made a full breakdown of this on one of the episodes that I did last week. I went over everything that I could find, and it's absolutely insane that we have a pipeline for organ harvesting from Canada. They are offered, MAID individuals are offered to help save the lives of others as they're literally being killed by their government. Yeah. The day before MAID, the day before they get killed, they get offered the possibility to allow the government to harvest their organs. And not only is this a massive secondary market and it's big business, although you're not legally able to sell those organs, the reality is that the transportation, the doctors that work on this. And one thing I didn't realize until I did a massive amount of research on this is that the organs that are harvested through MAID are the highest quality of organs possible, because normally organ harvesting happens during an accident. Most of the organs come from somebody that was in some type of accident. So chances are their organs are somewhat damaged, maybe not much. Yeah. But in a situation like MAID, you can plan it to say noon Eastern time on that day, we have a team of doctors and nurses waiting in the next room for you to commit suicide. We have a helicopter on the roof that will take it to the airport so that they can transport it to the US. This is the reality. It's absolute insanity.
And it is a reality. Like it's
I did all the work. I can prove it to you. I can prove it. I have all the sources. It's true.
Yeah. Well, and it's gaining global attention, right? Like, it's gaining global attention. People are very aware that Canadians are not provided healthcare; they're provided death. Like, that's what it's coming down to. And it's hard. It's a hard conversation to have, especially firsthand with people that are really considering it. And what's most challenging is I'm very aware, and this isn't a cure, but this is hopefully going to stop the disease progression. And it's been shown for some people to be very beneficial. And so I know that there's treatment available, right? And Canada just won't offer it. And even though the logistics of how you get approved for either SCIG or IVIG in Canada, it's different in British Columbia than it is in Alberta. Like, provincially, there's different criteria. And again, it comes down to gatekeeping. It's all dollars and cents. It's all dollars and cents. We are a commodity, and we've been that since who knows how long. It's very challenging. But I mean, what we're doing now, and this is our top priority with CanRise 19, is to try to achieve charitable status, because we would really like to mirror what React 19 has done in the United States. And so React 19 is the American organization, sister organization to our organization. CanRise 19 is part of a global coalition of other vaccine injury organizations as well. And as of last year, React 19's Medical Care Fund donated $1.5 million, Nico, to Americans for medical care that the government doesn't cover. And that's what we want to do. We get people calling us that are part of our support groups, and they're just like, their doctors won't pay for extra medication. And people are living in their cars. They've had to mortgage their house. I've spent $300,000 on medical care. Let's be honest. And I'm not bullshitting you. I sold my dental practice to pay for my life. My community set up a GoFundMe to help pay for brain surgery. My savings were gone, sold my assets, and I live in Canada and healthcare is free. That's bullshit. I'm here to tell you right now. And this is not uncommon. Like, there are so many Canadians that need healthcare. They can't afford it. And we've got this facade of a program that's supposed to be here to help us. And so I'm not sure if we're going to receive charitable status, but it would be one step closer to being able to build our medical care fund so that we can start issuing medical grants to Canadians for medical care. They shouldn't have to do what I had to do. I worked my entire life since I was 14, to build a practice. I had 2,000 patients when I sold my practice. Like, I cared. You know what I mean? And like, this is not how I intended my life to be, but you know what? Here we are. I'm here, Julie's here. What's funny to me is, so myself and Julie were the co-founders of the organization. We have an advocacy director. And so everything's free. There's no memberships. That's one thing that sets us apart in Canada, is to be a part of the organization as a member. You have access to resources and we're not charging you for it, but you're welcome to share your story. And you don't even have to join the support groups. If you'd like to, you're welcome to. But you can share your story on our website. But what you also can share is your lot number. And so the FOIA request that I had issued in the fall was for the top lot numbers that were reported in Canada. And myself, Julie, and our advocacy director, all of us have one of the same lot numbers, and we all have the same conditions. All of us. There's 6 people in Canada that have the same lot numbers and the same conditions. That's reported through our organization. On top of that, of the 9 lot numbers that I requested a FOIA request for, there was just over there. I think there was like 7,200 adverse events reported just in those 9 lot numbers. That's 9. Now I'm sending in another FOIA request. And so the FOIA requests, there's a lot. I think it depends on the size of the FOIA request. But what I can tell you is my first FOIA request included all internal documentation with the Public Health Agency of Canada, and they wouldn't receive that FOIA request. I had to take out that information. They wouldn't accept it. So all they gave me was just the numbers. So they wouldn't give me any of the internal documentation, because I wanted to see if there was any correspondence being like, hey, we're seeing these hot lot numbers. I'm not sure if you're aware. I think his name's Lee Turner. He was Dr. Charles Hoff's attorney in British Columbia. And Dr. Hoff started reporting injuries in BC to one of the AstraZeneca hot lots. And his name got dragged through the mud. Anyways, the correspondence that his attorney was able to get did show that Bonnie Henry was aware of those hot lot numbers, because there's actual emails being like, hey, we're having an issue with this one. And they never shared it with the public. You know what they did instead? They changed the definition of an adverse event following immunization. Mm-hmm. Changed the definition, right? So that's something that we're still working on. And so we have relevant data for Canadians. And so sharing your lot numbers with us gives us more information, and we can request more information. But it took some finessing. My FOIA request, like I said, it was rejected the first time. I will have another one that's going to be presented, but it's I don't know what you uncover. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I never imagined in a million years I would ever be sitting in this seat doing what I'm doing, probably similar to you, Nico. I know you and I shared our stories a bit more last year, and what loss you went through with not being vaccinated. And if I could take it back, I would do it a million times over. And I know I don't just speak for myself, and that there's physical injury that comes with this, but the moral injury that comes with this, when you have to live every day with forgiving yourself. Yeah.
And it's on both sides of the fence, right? It's completely opposite. I lost everything for not taking it, and I was told by a bunch of obese people that I was a health risk to them. They're almost telling me this between 2 bites of McDonald's. I'm like, okay, cool story, man. Thank you very much. But One of the things, after I've been doing this for about 5 years, 4.5, 5 years now, and one thing I have never heard is somebody that was unvaccinated saying they regret their decision. But how many people that were vaccinated regretted it? And I would be very curious to see the number, an actual real percentage of how many people would have done it if they would have known the actual consequences, the potential risks, if they would have had real informed consent. There's a couple of comments I want to take. We're running out of time, unfortunately, and the comment section is just absolutely insane. We'd probably need like a 4-hour episode in order to start covering some of them. But I highlighted this one from Jean Snow or Jean Snow. I'm not sure. I'm French. When I see Jean, I say Jean. So Jean Snow, I'm the only one of my family to have refused these injections. My brother, my dad, my mom all got issues. Some friends turned against me, and when they learned I didn't get the vaccine, and then they came back to me some years later. I still don't have a good relationship with my family, and a massive amount of that, like the last nail in the coffin, was really what I did. Being told by my own mother that I deserved to lose my career for not taking the job. I'm like, I'm the type that weighs his food. I used to fight. I used to be able to lose 25 pounds over the span of 8 weeks. That's how dedicated I am. And I eat once a day. I intermittent fast every single day. I weigh my food. I weigh my son's food. I make him yogurt. I can tell you exactly what's in his yogurt because I weigh everything. And I was told by people that I was a danger to their health. This is the reality. So I feel you. I feel you, Jean Snow. It's absolutely insane what we've gone through. And unfortunately, I think it's self-preservation. It's self-preservation. People don't want to talk about this because they don't want to admit that they put themselves at risk, and they don't even know. They might have problems right now that they're not even aware, because I know for a fact from talking to a lot of the doctors that lost their career over this, we haven't seen the tip of the iceberg yet. It's going to get worse, and it's going to take a few years before we still see the real adverse effect. It's going to be bad.
I'd probably say like maybe around year 15 we'll see it, especially when we look at like fertility. That we'll see that for sure. And for Jean, I experienced the same thing. Like as soon as I started speaking publicly about it, well, I was first shamed by the medical community because I asked questions and didn't want to. And then I was shamed by patients because I wouldn't tell them my vaccine status or my staff. And then I was shamed and ostracized when I started talking about it because, heaven forbid, I was injured. So I've had all of it. Like you should be ashamed of yourself for not being vaccinated. You're lying. You're misinformation. You aren't vaccine injured. My social circle is very small, so I've experienced all ends of the spectrum. And I said this to you before we started, that I love the title of your podcast, The Political Orphan, because I feel that way. Because when you're in this environment, you are either like stupid for getting vaccinated, and you deserve it, or you don't exist, right? And so I say this often, this is a nonpartisan issue. It is, because this is like a humanitarian issue. And from an advocacy perspective, like I'm on the lobbying side. So, I mean, I've engaged with countless MPs, every political party leader. We've got calls to action. The call to action letters on our website. People can easily access it and print it out. I can't find a single political party. No one will talk to me. So I am a political orphan. Like I just laugh and say I'm like between like Alice in Wonderland and the Matrix. Like you're just watching this all unfold, and we're watching so much unfold, like, between censorship, and now we've got Bill C9, and we've got like Bill C224. So like health products, like they're challenging those. And like, I can tell you from experience, it's the one thing throughout the course of this almost 5 years that's kept me alive, because it's the only thing that I had access to. Right. And I know plenty of injured that are in the same position. I appreciate your podcast title, and I appreciate what you're doing, Nico.
It's now the name of a nonprofit organization. We just got registered a couple of weeks ago. We're just waiting
Right.
for the bank accounts to be finalized, and I'm starting a whole movement behind this. I want to retake Canada one community at a time, and that's the whole point, is to put leaders together in the same room so that we can figure out what the solutions are. Because I know for a fact from 20 years in the corporate world, if you put enough smart people in the same room, you will find solutions to all our problems. But I know for a fact that a community in Alberta is not the same as a community in Ontario. So we need to have community leaders all across Canada, all organized under the same ideas
Mm-hmm.
to even try to get Canada back. But that's the whole point. So we took it. I literally took it from a show that you're seeing right now to a nonprofit, and now I'm starting to figure out how to make that work. But we should talk about it afterwards, because there's a lot of people out there that feels like political orphans, and it's because everything that we're seeing from our government right now, and I'm saying government, I'm going to try to not use the liberals and conservative terms anymore, just to say government, because they're two wings of the same bird. There's no separation between the two anymore. It's one has a red background, the other one has a blue background, but none of them work for Canadians. And there's so many topics like vaccine injury, for example, that should not be a political opinion. That shouldn't be a political topic, but it is.
There are certain things that when I think of like politics, I used to think of leadership.
Yeah,
I'm
100%.
not seeing that at all. And like when I think of like qualities that I admire in a leader, I'm not seeing that demonstrated. And when I think about topics that should be left to like the nuclear family, faith, education, right? Bodily autonomy, medical freedom. We fight very hard when you think about your kind of like your imprint in this world, and it's that like circle of influence, and like you have to hold tight to that. I can hear you doing that with your family. We do that with our children, right? And I've always been like an outside the box thinker, pretty unorthodox. I do not follow very well. I don't. And we've lost that curiosity, and we've lost that innovative thinking. And I think like the mission that you're aiming for, I can see why. Yeah.
We need, because it's interesting, because the problem I'm seeing in Canada is politicians. They're the problem. Not the liberals are the problem or the conservatives are the problem. They are all the problem because they're weak leadership. So that's why we need a new generation of leaders that will be community leaders, hardworking Canadians, just regular people. We just need to organize and show them how to lead. I've been saying this forever. One of the ways to put our ideas out there is to be able to create content, is to become good in front of a camera, to become good in going into your community and having conversations with people. There's a mall in your community where you know people are at on Saturday. Set up a table. Do what Charlie Kirk did. How many street interviews have I done traveling through Canada, traveling to the US, asking hard questions? I'd walk around with, I just have them because I took them out of my car, but I still have my boards. I would walk around with boards. I'd have my wife or my buddy follow me with a camera setup, and I would have conversations with people. Imagine if we started doing that everywhere, where we would talk about topics like the one we're talking today, just open the conversation.
Don't you think it's remarkable when you do that? How much closer we are than we realize, right? Like we are closer than we realize. And people want to have these conversations. They do. It's just a matter of like the division that's been created that we've stopped talking. But more people want to have these conversations than I think most believe. And we've just been like played against one another for so long. And we've come to a place now where we just can't even talk, right? Like we can't disagree anymore. I welcome a disagreeable conversation. Like I want to hear what you have to say. Like, and I appreciate and admire you doing that, because to be able to like sit face to face with people. And that's another thing as well, is like we've got like keyboard warriors behind the scenes. I can blast all sorts of, word salad. But to be able to sit down face to face with people and talk, and I think that's a large challenge here that we have, is that they're not talking anymore, and so many foundations have been broken because we've stopped talking, and it's intentional. It's well orchestrated, sadly.
But it comes down to, this is something I say all the time, but it falls down on us that know, that open their eyes, that can see what's coming, to extend the olive branch. Like one of my buddies, Jason Levine, said to me months ago, and I still repeat it: as a conservative, you should go hug liberals, give liberals a hug, as in extend that olive tree, that olive branch. And if you know better, you should be having those conversations, and that's always going to be the number one thing, is to be able to have those hard conversations with the people that are around you, family members, friends, your community, because that's all it is to lead. At the end of the day, is to be able to say the truth, no matter what the consequences of your action, of your words are. Just say it, and
say it with love, right?
Exactly. Extend that olive branch, and that's my whole point. The left versus right narrative is a lie. That was a lie created by our politicians. They just follow a guy by the name of Niccolo Machiavelli, an Italian from hundreds of years ago, that created the political divide and conquer. I have his book. It's right behind me. That book is brilliant. The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli is so smart, that it's so evil. It's evil, so evil, but it's so clever. You have to give credit where credit is due.
Remind me of that title after, when we're done. I'd like to read it.
The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. He basically explains to his king, because back then they had 6 or 7 kings in Italy, and his king was the weakest, so he wrote him a letter explaining how to take over the country. The book is absolutely, it's like a manifesto. It's brilliant. It's scary as hell, but it's brilliant. But that's the situation we see today. We don't have the conversations anymore. We don't want to have conversations about faith, money, and politics, which everybody has an opinion on. And that's what I want to re-engage. And hopefully this is what the show's all about too, to take those hard conversations, those hard questions, those hard comments. And I apologize to the audience. It's just, it was hard for me to keep track of the amount of comments that we had. And hopefully we can have you back on, because it seems like there's a lot of interest in picking your brains. So hopefully, yes, sure, we'll schedule something else, because we are 10 minutes over. I think she's having issues with her internet connection, but it's kind of a good timing. At the end of the day, we are done for the day. But before I let you guys go, 2 things I want to remind you. We do have a crowdfunding effort going on right now, because I do want to have you on the show. Like I was saying, it's all about having those hard conversations. So I want you guys on the show. I want to be able to talk to you maybe not face to face at the beginning, but at least voice to voice. We want you on the show, voice to voice, just like they do on AM Talk Radio. You guys will have the opportunity to call in. I called it the Orphans Hotline, but in order to make it happen, I do need your help. I need your support, because I need a piece of equipment called the Rodecaster Pro 2. It's currently on sale until the end of the month. It goes for $820 plus tax. Turns out to about $950. We have $250 received from donations up to now. We need another $700 to buy it, but this piece of equipment would allow you guys to call in and have your voice heard on the show directly. So if you want that to become a reality, I invite you to go to thepoliticalorphans.com/hotline and help us make the Orphans Hotline a reality. Remember that, as we were just talking with Michelle, our politicians are the problem. A new generation of leaders is the solution. We do it one community at a time. So it's time to stop complaining, start leading. So join us, become a member of the citizen-led movement at thepoliticalorphans.com. Thank you for being here. Thank you for every single person in the audience. Make sure to like, make sure to comment, make sure to subscribe if it's your first time here, because we definitely want to have you back. We want to continue having those conversations. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we see you again. So until then, have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.